Triple Shot Mindset.
No smiling. This is an important topic, and it is racism. Racism. I know this goes against everything we've been talking about, relationships, trajectories, and whatnot. But I got to bring this up because this morning I got some hate mail being accused of being a racist, which I'm not, obviously. But I'll give the backstory. Last night in our little pristine community, a neighbor was robbed at gunpoint. And so knowing that I'm very vocal on these apps for the neighborhood, I can't mention them by name.
Why not?
Because they're not a sponsor.
So?
Just Nextdoor app. She reached out to me and said, Kevin, can you please inform our neighbors because this just happened and I want my neighbors to be aware. So being a good neighbor and friend that I am, I said, okay. I posted exactly what she told me. Just got robbed at gunpoint at the community gym by two black men wearing hoodies and masks. After they robbed me of everything, backpack, laptop inside the backpack, they jumped the fence and got in their car, black sedan, and left. So I put that on Nextdoor, community service, and while half of the people replied, well, thank you, Kevin, for telling us so we can be more aware, half of them were like, how dare you give a description that includes the race of the person. Now you are making every black person guilty.
And every black car.
And so I chuckled inside, thinking to myself, what the fuck are you smoking? Because the first thing in detective work is narrowing down your suspects so that you can catch them. So I'm thinking, how do you expect me to describe these people? Did I say, stay away from every black man because they're going to kill you? No. I merely said the description given to me was two black men. So I think that's what's wrong with our society today, because we cannot describe somebody because if somebody's going to get hurt along the way, they're going to take offense to it. As you were saying, when 9/11 happened, being from Persian descent that we are, growing up in this country, we're called terrorists all the time because we look different. We're beaten up because we were quote unquote terrorists. So when 9/11 happened and Rudy Giuliani said, from now on, we're going to look at everybody that comes in. We have to racially profile you to see if you fit the bill because we don't want this to happen again. You know what I said to myself? Bring it on. Profile me, pull me over, ask me a million questions, and let me go sit on that plane. Because I'd much rather you be strict with everybody that fits that profile of a terrorist than me getting blown up or whatever happens to me in an airplane. So I welcome that. So I feel like these people who are, wanting to make me a second a-hole for being honest, I think they should look at it that way. You know what? It's better for our police department to know some description of these people and be aware, there's a black car and there's two, people wearing masks inside of them that happen to be black. Maybe we should pull them over and talk to them. But this whole culture of, God forbid you describe somebody the way they are or you profile them when a crime has happened, I think it's just overboard. It's just sick.
It's really interesting. May I ask, the people who are ripping you a second asshole, are they black?
No.
I think it's a wokeism.
It is a combination.
What do you mean it's a combination? It's like black and white people are asking.
I see like I don't see their icons or faces on their icons. Some of them just say J for the first name or something. Not everybody has a profile picture, but I can tell by the last names, like Rodriguez. or Johnson.
Well, that's why California is California. And I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican. I'm a smart person somewhere in the middle who understands and pulls from both sides to form my own opinion. And I think the wokeism of certain liberal states has become too much, right? If I see a crime being committed, the first thing I'm going to start doing, like from the top down, man, woman, young, old, fat, skinny. Now you can't say fat anymore, by the way. So you have all these descriptive
Can we even
things.
say man, woman?
You don't know. Like, what if he's feeling womanly one day? Last time I was watching something on Joe Rogan or one of those things, and there's a guy who, depending on the situation,
identifies differently.
So if he's in a high stress thing and he doesn't want to deal with it, he becomes a woman. If it's a low stress thing, he becomes like a man. It's so weird.
That's very intuitive of him because people's energy does change depending on the situation they're in. But
so in detective work,
interesting.
I would say, who was this person? Man, woman, tall, short, fat, skinny, black, white, Mexican. I'm going to come up with those things to describe someone, right? I'm going to describe their car color. I'm going to say, well, it was a car that had a color, but that shouldn't matter. And I'm not going to tell you the make and model because that's going to be racial profiling of the car. Like, that's just extreme wokeism that I think has no place in society, and everyone has to walk on eggshells, which I clearly don't anymore.
I don't either.
But I don't care. Like, I have to communicate what I saw as fast as I can, as effectively as I can to the audience. And if the audience is dumb, a lot of people don't get it. Like, I can't, go out. Someone who identifies as a man and has genitals, like, that identifies as male, like, I can't just say man. A man in his early 20s, carrying a gun, he was Latino, he was this, he was that, robbed me. That's the fastest way to get to the point. Versus run around, or everyone's going to get hurt, everyone's going to be upset. God, if people call me Persian, they call me Middle Eastern, they call me Arab, they call me anything, what do they call us? The towel head. Whatever they want to call me, call me. That's how they see the world. Call it as you see it. I'm going to call it as I see it. I'm not going to be, demeaning. I'm not going to, use bad language. But we have a black race. You have Latinos. You have Middle Easterns. You have whites. You have, Indians. You have this and that. Indigenous people. Those are how society kind of, picks apart the different tribes and different kinds of people. Then you have male and female. Then you have kids and olders and youngers and seniors and juniors and like sophomores. Everything is categorized. So for a bunch of people to jump on your ass, trying to create a second one, they're the problem with society today.
Not a second ass, a second asshole.
Yeah. No extra cheeks. It's really throwing the baby out with the bathwater and losing the message in wokeism. It is what it is. There will always, just as there are some states still in the U.S. that are extremely racist, and there was that whole scandal.
Kentucky, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee.
Mississippi.
I don't know why I'm doing this gesture.
You want to do like,
They
give me the virus.
They give me the virus. Just as there's that, there will always rise up with the energies to match. And I think that's what California is, kind of it believes itself to be the antidote to racism, but it takes things to the extreme. Yeah, they're both extreme on both sides. But you really do this throws the baby out with the bathwater, which is why I asked if anyone communicating with you was black. Because what I've noticed for myself, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, a lot of people get offended on behalf of the party that they think is being attacked. So a lot of my white friends, for example, are very quick to say, that's racist. Shut up. Cut that down. Like, why would you even say that word? Like, there's a horrible thing. You're horrible racist. Like, how can you say that? Or when it comes to fat phobia, a lot of people who are not fat will say, you can't say fat. Like, that's really messed up. You don't understand. You have a privilege. I think someone somewhere said, you can't be more offended than the offended party.
Yeah.
Meaning yes, you want to support, but you have to let the offended party take the lead and follow their lead. I know a lot of people, myself being a half breed, half immigrant, half white American-born father and mother. I know that sometimes cultures that immigrate to the U.S. feel celebrated when people use their culture or enjoy their culture, eat their food, dress like them. But if you ask white people, they'll say that's cultural appropriation. So I don't know where we draw the line and say, but for me personally, I think it's let the person take the lead.
Yeah.
If a black person reaches out to you and says, hey, this is the situation, the phrasing is this, can I recommend a better one, whatever, maybe that's something. But if people who don't really have a horse in the race, no pun intended, or maybe they feel like they do, or maybe they're just trying to prove virtue signaling, prove like I'm cutting edge with my social wokeness, like, and I'm going to prove it to you right now with this action. You can feel the energy of that. You can feel what's genuine and what's just people who have nothing else to do.
Go on YouTube and do Morgan Freeman Black History Month. Have you seen that video?
No.
All right. Go watch it. The guy who was talking to Morgan Freeman, he says, hey, what do you think of Black History Month? He's like, it doesn't make sense. Right? Why are we, he's like, aren't you afraid, like, there's all this, racism going on? He's like, no, racism goes on because in the media, you guys keep bringing it up. Right? There's no real racism. There may be pockets of racism here and there, but it's not a nationwide, epidemic. And he rips a second asshole to the reporter because he says all these things, the wokeism, all the things that we're pushing for it is actually creating the divide, right? If I can say, oh, I had a black friend in high school, oh, you can't say that. Like, then that creates, I have to walk on eggshells. I'm going to treat him differently when I see him next time. And it's just going to create a divide. So do Morgan Freeman, Black History Month, do that. And I saw another black gentleman a few days ago. He was talking about the payout for the slavery times that they want to, instead of California wants to give, I don't know, $600,000 to.
No, it's 800 billion.
So they want to give that money to black families, right? And this black gentleman on TV, he was saying, how about we don't do that? How about not giving another handout? How about not buying a house for $1 for black families? Because that's going to further push them into, oh, we're victims, right? He said, how about give this money to veterans of the war who are in the street of San Francisco without a house? What happened to us was 1835. It hasn't happened, like, it's been almost 200 years since, right? Let's help the veterans who fought for this country, who have been on the streets for 10 years now, 5 years now, 10 years, whatever. So
I think there's overcompensation to make up for the wrongs that were done. Nobody's for the wrongs that were done. Everybody hates that period and what happened to the people of this world. But to overcompensate and keep overcompensating to make things right to a point that you cannot describe somebody committing a felony as, okay, the description is a black male wearing a mask, driving a black car. I think that's just ridiculous.
I don't want to get too political with it, but I do like the idea of reparations. I do. I think, and again, I'm going against my own advice, which is a white person weighing in on something that I have so wipe with it. That's my advice to everyone.
Wipe with it?
Wipe with it. This is not a really valid opinion, but since we're here talking,
but you have an opinion.
I'm going to give it. It's okay to not have an opinion, but I do have one on this topic. With the idea of reparations, I think it could function as a laying to rest of, like, look, it's the final thing. Take it, do what you will with it, but now moving forward and all generations moving forward, consider the debt repaid financially, in a physical way instead of all that. Because we were talking in our last episode about words. Like, words are so nice. Like, oh, we're sorry. But institutionalized racism is a thing. And going back generations, you can track how people have been marginalized by the man and the system. So I kind of like the idea of reparations. But we don't have to dive deeper into it unless we want to.
No, I'm just saying lots of people or groups have been subject to unfair treatment. Japanese in campus.
Yes, Manson are in there.
So I mean, yeah, I get it. Let's make things right. But I don't think,
They got to pay out.
yeah, make it right. Make it right. But let's move from this and let's tone down the wokeism. Okay, now that everybody's on a even playing field, so to speak, and now you feel like whole again, what's wrong with describing people as who they are?
Yep.
Fat, short, old, young. Why do we call them senior citizens? How dare you say senior citizen? Right? Like, at what point do you look at yourself in the mirror and say, enough?
Yeah.
Enough of, like, you know, walking on eggshells, like you said, to protect people's feelings. Just grow a set. Accept
People
who you
can
are.
call me Middle Eastern, Persian, Arab, whatever the
They
fuck
used to
they
call us
want.
terrorists all the time.
Do it. Still do it. If you want to, if that's how you see me, do it. You say, hey, a terrorist walked into Albertsons. He walked out with, 3 loaves of bread. Go look for him. Like, if that's how he wants to describe me, go ahead and do it. It's not going to bother me. Your view of me doesn't bother me one bit. You can call me whatever you want. You can call me a towel head, whatever you want to do. Camel jockey. I've heard all those things.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't bother me. I'm not going to go say, oh, well, you need to, apologize for that. Or just imagine you were a victim of a rape and you had to call the cops. You have to tell your neighbors this just happened. At which point do you put your safety and the safety of other people over someone's hurt feelings? Which, by the way, it's not a hurt feeling. If someone calls, oh, this was a black gentleman who did this to me, or an Asian gentleman, or whatever, it is what it is. We can't be like, so as society, be so woke to a point that we're overdoing things, and it's going to create more of a rift, I think.
I agree. It loses the objective reality.
Yeah.
So at what point you can only share community in an objective reality? You can't share what we have here unless you agree on certain facts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think we saw families torn apart during the coronavirus time. Oh my gosh, there we go again. During the coronavirus time.
It's more like this.
Because because people were disagreeing on objective facts.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't even be family anymore. I know people who are writing off their family members because of their feelings on the vaccine one way or another. Like, oh, you're going to die from it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to know you in 2 years. That's a shame, but you're going to be dead. Like, whoa, we don't agree on an objective reality anymore. If we can't say what people's ethnicities are verbally, and we can't say how they present as male or female. Because the first thing I thought when you said your listing was, well, another thing people could come after you is male. Yeah, how do you know they identify as male?
Yep.
You don't know. How dare you? Very
But
presumptive.
Isn't it funny, the state of California, which is so leaning the other way, every form you fill out, it has a whole list of what ethnic background are you? Why does it matter? If the attitude is it shouldn't matter, then why do you ask in every form?
Right.
Yeah, I just got a census form for my business, though. And it got me thinking about the census form I got, I don't know, a few years ago to my house. Who are the people living in your house? What are their ages? What are their races? What are their sexes? All that stuff. I mean, you got to know. You got to know what composition of your community is so that you can render aid, you can render search of services, whatever it may be.
Statistics, tracking.
To understand
History.
who it is. Like, if I'm going to go to a predominantly white, wealthy neighborhood, obviously they may not need, a community center with basketball courts, for example. I don't know, right? Or if I go, so
What?
yeah, they're not going to play basketball. They're going to want to go on their yachts. They want to get golf courses instead,
Oh,
right?
got it.
You get it?
Yeah.
It's not racist.
I get
It's
it.
being-
I think racism is putting another race down, but not describing them. Like, hey, we all know, for example, Persian people, our culture, we eat rice. Okay? You describe me as, oh, you guys love rice. Yeah, we love rice.
Yeah.
But if you say these fuckers, they eat rice all the time, I'm surprised they don't turn white like rice, then yeah, that's racism. But as long as you're describing in a neutral or a good manner what we do, what does it matter? I'm not going to take offense to that.
Have you ever heard of Russell Peters?
No.
You haven't?
Russell Peters?
Yes.
I've heard of Russell Brand.
He
Russell
does. The many Russells.
He is a comedian of Indian descent. He was born and raised in Canada. But he has his whole comedy bit 20,000 people show up in the stadium, and he has jokes for Arabs, for Persians, for Jews, for Indians, for African Americans. He has jokes for everyone, and everyone in that stadium is laughing hysterically, right? They're laughing at each other and at themselves because those differences are actually things that keep us together. So if everyone is just a person, no sex, no age, no differentiating factors, then there's no bond, in my opinion. Like I find people who are of different cultures and races interesting to socialize with, to have their food, to taste their food, to go to their country and visit it, as much as I'm talking about going to my trip to Vietnam. But those things are interesting. Like those things are the spice of life. Now,
celebrating differences.
and if we just say, well, we can't talk about the race and age and gender and size, like when was it okay for women on dating apps to require the men to be 6 feet or over, and men cannot distinguish if whether or not they want a woman who's 150 pounds or less?
You told me that's real? That's a real thing.
100%.
They can determine the height criteria.
Yeah.
I think these discrepancies, this is what causes issues.
Rifts.
If everybody was just in the middle, be in the middle. What's wrong with being in the middle? Treat everybody the same.
I mean, the height of someone and the width of someone. I mean, why can't I describe the width of someone as much as I can describe their height?
And a height is a factor you cannot control. Whereas, and many would say that, wait, I'm not saying that's a whole rabbit hole.
Don't
but
be scared. Just speak your mind.
I don't know if I agree with that or not. So I don't want to, again, I'm trying to watch my words and not talk out of my
majority of weight, I think it's your diet, it's your lack of exercise, it's your lifestyle. I understand some people, and I've known people in my life who had thyroid issues, who had other issues that contribute to their weight gain, and they couldn't help it. Same thing if a short person or a tall person, like if an 8-foot person walks in, you're like, well, that's had no choice with that, right? So one of the things I get pissed off when I'm on dating apps is that a woman can describe a man's physical features that she wants, his height, his money, his all these things. He can do that.
Wait, that's a criteria you can do?
Well, not the amount of money, but they write it. They say, I want a man
don't hit me up unless you make
who makes $200K or more per month, right? You're like, oh, I'm sorry, per year, $200,000 per year. And you're like, if I said something to the same extent as to what I'm looking for a woman who is between this size and this width and this much weight, and she can clean 12 dishes in under a minute, hit me up.
Yeah.
Right? How is that any different than so to me, all this time that my brother's, getting his inbox filled with people who are woke and all that, I'm like, just delete it, man. Don't read any of that. Delete it, because these people are looking for a reaction. These people are looking for, oh, you're right, let me go apologize. There's nothing to apologize for.
You know what I've seen on Nextdoor? People describing, white male came and stole my package. Everybody's like, oh, okay, thank you for letting us know. But the second it becomes somebody of ethnic background, all of a sudden everybody, oh, you cannot describe them.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. I think in this society we've gone going backwards, reverse racism. Like, why now we can't talk about who the criminal is because they're gonna get upset?
I think I saw a video out of Portland, Oregon, that there were a bunch of kids, between the ages of 18 and 25. They were congregating in a city square, right? And they had a club. And there were like some Latinos, some Asians, some African Americans, some other ethnicities, Middle Eastern. And they didn't have a single white person in the group, right? So the reporter asked, can I ask you a question? Do you have any white people? And it's like, no, because they offend us, right? Having white people in a group is offensive. He's like, was it offensive to you? He's like, because they suppressed black people, they suppressed this, they suppressed that, so we don't want any white people in it. And so they found a white girl that was walking by, and they said, hey, would you like to join this group? And everyone was up in arms. We don't want a whitey in here. Like, we don't want a whitey in here, right?
Yet that is not racism. Yet that is not labeled as a racist group.
And she said, I'm so sorry, my my grandparents, my parents, it had nothing to do with slavery. That had nothing to do with the Japanese encampment. They didn't have anything to do with anyone, right? We came from Finland, 30, 40 years ago. But I do apologize for my race having done this 300 years ago. And they said, no, we don't want it. We have to vote. And if one person feels uncomfortable, out of the 50 of us feels uncomfortable with having a white person in our thing, we don't want it. Imagine if I went to a group of white people. I said, can I join your group? And they're like, well, if one of us feels bad with a terrorist on this group, we don't want you. Like, that would be offensive.
I agree.
What the heck was that?
Yeah, it sounded like, I don't even know. I think this reminds me of what I said about, for those who can't hear it, there's something really loud rolling around outside.
I think
the
somebody's
office.
moving.
Yeah, it's like those chairs. This reminds me of the conversation we had about women in the dating scene being fresh to it now, their newfound power. They've been in the kitchen for the last 200 years. This is all being very simply described, but we go into it a lot more nuance in a previous episode. Long story short, my thesis there was that because women are new to having their independence and autonomy, they are kind of wielding their power kind of carelessly. Mm-hmm. Because they're doing what men did to them. They're having the same thing. Like, I want rich, I want this, I want that. Just like they used to be objectified, now they're like wielding that power. Like, now I'm going to objectify. And I get the same feeling from this, which is like, look, now that we have the power to determine, we're going to inflict the same wounds that were inflicted on us. Like, that's kind of the thing.
Tit for tat.
Tit for tat. And I don't think that's the right approach. I think it's like what you said, we're going backwards in a sense because, okay, now we just flip-flop the power dynamic. Now we give new people the ability to have prejudicial behavior.
Sure. Sounds nice.
So I think the objective is to move forward with neutrality. And I kind of think of it from a child's perspective. If you take a child who hasn't been implanted with any ideas, and in psychology, there are so many. In school, we went through so many different scenarios where what happens when you implant racist ideas into a child's mind, what happens when you don't implant racist ideas into a child's mind. Children will notice differences that are glaring. But if you explain it as, it's different, here's why, let's move forward, there is no superiority. It's like, oh, it's just different. Okay, cool, let's move on. The whole superiority thing comes from ego and war and a lot of other negative attributes that have caused a lot of destruction on this planet. But if we look at one another and acknowledge the differences and don't raise any up or lower any, I think that's where we're going to see progress as a society. Acknowledge the differences and then move forward.
So as marketers, right, we have to do, analysis on a certain business, whether it's viable to have this business in this particular neighborhood, if the target audience matches the growth projections, all that stuff. So as a marketer, we have to look at a business, see, okay, this is going to be your competition. This is your target audience. The amount of money people are spending on self-care, for example, for a chiropractic office, it's lower in this neighborhood. It's better in that neighborhood. If you want to have a golf shop, it'll do better in a predominantly white or wealthy neighborhood than, a underprivileged neighborhood. We got to take that stuff into consideration. Like, we can't sugarcoat certain things, right? We can't sugarcoat, put a golf course in the middle of a, middle to low class neighborhood. It's going to do great. It's not, right? We got to be realistic with things. And I don't know why people are so offended when it comes to realities of life. And as a marketer, we have to be real because I can't push my clients to open up a shop in a neighborhood that's not going to see the return that they were hoping to get.
Or like, do you think bacon sells well in the Persian community? No, we don't eat pork.
Right.
So as like you said, you understand, your demographic, and as long as you have an understanding and you respect that, you're not disrespecting them. You're like, it's not going to do well here. I'm not going to put a, ham shop in the Persian community. They're not going to eat ham.
Yeah, in the Muslim community, you're not going to do that. Like, you're going to have, it's not like we're generalizing things. It's a fact that Muslims and Jewish people, they don't like ham. You cannot have a ham shop in the middle of, Dearborn, Michigan, or, what's that neighborhood? Queens, New York, and do well. You're not going to do it. So, yes, everyone's entitled to play golf, play tennis, go to a chiropractor, go to a ham shop, go to a whatever. They're all entitled to do that. But as a business, you have to have certain things in the back of your mind and on your spreadsheets and on your reports that push you to succeed. And if those things have to come into play, they have to come into play.
So to wrap this up, to my point, I'm not racist. A person who comes from the Middle East, who has been the victim of violence, tirades, all sorts of things, being beaten up with my head in the toilet and flushed a couple of times, I get that you have to be sensitive, right? And that people judging you based on where you come from or the color of your skin is fucked up. I'm a person that I was going to adopt from a different country, completely different race than what I am. You think I'm racist? Absolutely not. But I'm a realist. We have to call out to the detectives, hey, this is a description of the people who robbed me. And I don't think there's anything wrong with mentioning race. And those people who make it into a racial thing, I think they got some shit going on in their head.
I think they have skeletons in the closet themselves.
They do. I mean, because you're overcompensating for something.
They were either racist as growing up, and now they're like, oh, shoot, let me
make up for it.
Yeah, go 180 degrees and just like call out people on that because that's who they are. So I think, don't go on that app. First of all, I think that app is a waste of time for you. Second of all, that DM, just select all, delete, and go with your business. Don't look at that because the more you look at that and the energy of these people seep into your soul and they're going to start messing with your head.
Yeah.
That's why I don't watch the news.
And one little last thing I'd like to add.
Sure, please.
For those listening who identify as woke, you said something really profound, which is, I'm a realist. One thing I think about the woke movement where it fails is it's trying to change reality with fantasy. And there are elements of that are very powerful, small elements. But in order to change reality, you have to face reality. You have to accept exactly what reality is. And you said it earlier as a marketer with statistics. If you don't like the way a neighborhood is, you don't like the way the system runs, you don't like the way the system oppresses, whatever it may be, you need the facts. You need descriptives. You need real numbers. To change reality. Data. To change reality, you got to face reality. It can't be fantasy and it can't be sugar-coated. It's okay to not like it, but you have to accept what's true. And that, I think, is the antidote to wokeism.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Triple Shot Mindset.